host, Ryan Miller, and for the past 15 years, I've helped hundreds of people to raise millions of dollars for their funds and for their startups. If you're serious about raising money, launching your business, or taking your life to the next level, this show will give you the answers so that you too can enjoy your pursuit of making billions. Let's get into it.
In this week's episode, I bring on my dear friend Justin Sloan. Justin is the founder and CEO of Sloan Capital, an investment firm that has $20 million of real estate book value, as well as scaling up on a massive restaurant empire, starting with Everbowl Restaurants. Join Justin and me where we discuss how he went from a scrappy kid to tech entrepreneur and all the way to doing multi-million-dollar deals while scaling every step of the way. You don't want to miss it. Plus, you're going to want to listen all the way to the end where Justin opens up and reveals his top 3 principles on getting in the room and scaling yourself into millionaire status faster than ever before, bringing us all the competitive advantages we need in our pursuit of making billions. Here we go.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Making Billions. I'm your host, Ryan Miller, and today I have one of my dear friends, Justin Sloan. Justin is the founder and CEO of Sloan Capital. It's a $20 million real estate syndication company, as well as a massive restaurant empire. So what this means is Justin understands multiple verticals and how to find, manage, and close multiple deals. He's going to get into everything. You're going to want to listen all the way to the end, where he's going to actually talk about how to go from starting out all the way to his status and his success, as long as I ask nicely. So I'm sure I'll say pretty please. But Justin, my man, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, sir. It's good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, it's so good to have you here. I've been following you, and I've looked you up. I've done some research, and we've gotten to know you a little bit offline. And I am so impressed with what you've done. Not only what you've done and what you're doing now, but where it came from, the fight, the scrappiness, the stick-to-itiveness that you've been able to cultivate in your career, and you're able to bring those lessons to our fans today. But before we get into that, I'm sure many of our fans around the world would like to know, how did it start for you?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. I very much recognize the type of people that listen to shows like this. Excited to talk with your guests, excited always to talk with you, and go from there. So yeah, my name's Justin Sloan. I'm a little boy born in Iowa. And now we've kind of grown and doing business all over the place. So grew up with a single mom, raised a lot by my mom and my grandma, me and 2 other brothers. So it was kind of hustle mentality and always, working to get through. And my mom had lots of different jobs at all times. And through that, us boys helped. And, we kind of collectively all pitched in to grow. And then through that, I started to find different ways to make some money. Delivering papers and washing dishes and this. And then finally, when I was late in high school, had the chance to sell some cell phones. And this is kind of where it started clicking for me that, wait a minute, I'm used to watching my mom kind of trade her hours for money. But this taught me that I could trade my hours. And if I, did extra work and I did some things, that I could make some commission and make more than an hourly rate. And so that kind of started my journey.
Awesome. And my understanding is you did that with cell phones. You're a hustler, man. You remind me, I see a lot of myself in you, and at a young age, you're just always looking for that edge or the next coolest thing. And my understanding is you launched your career where it really started to take off was you got involved in cell phones and tech. Maybe you could walk us through a little bit of your first venture.
Yeah. So right in high school, when I was a senior in high school, schooling wasn't really for me. I was done every day about noon. I did kind of the minimum classes. And then every day I went to a local mall, and from about 1 p.m. until 9 p.m., I sold cell phones. And, I was barely 18 years old for most of this. And but it was lucrative. And this was back when very few people had cell phones. And so, very often you'd go into work and sell 2, 3, 7 phones a night. And, it was kind of like a conveyor belt. People would walk up and I need a phone and I need a phone and I need a phone. And it was awesome. And when I saw kind of where this business was heading, and we started with black and white Nokia 5190s. And then all of a sudden it's a flip phone and a color screen and the BlackBerry, and these progressions were happening. And so I got pretty good at selling the store, phones, and ended up running a store and then another one. And then kind of came this pivot where I was in college. and I was doing really well in the cell phone stores. So it was kind of that moment where, do you keep going down the college route or do you take a chance in the sales world? And so I ended up taking every penny that I had, and I threw it kind of all on red and bought a few pieces of furniture and some slat wall, and I signed a lease. And I was the only employee for the first 6 months or so, and worked open to close 7 days a week, and used the skill set that I had from the working in the mall and brought in some customers, and then hired an employee, opened another store, and from there we scaled it over the next 12 years into something kind of cool.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal. The fact that you were just out of high school doing that, man, that's savage. Good for you, buddy. That's incredible. So you worked 6 months, 7 days a week straight. Man, that must have been hard, but you had a mission, you had a goal. Then you started to hire someone else, and now we're in business, right? We're rocking and rolling, we're growing. And you ran that for about 12 years. Now, my understanding is a little bit before that 12-year mark, a few things happened that started to change your perspective on possibly finding other avenues for making money. Maybe walk us through that moment where you knew that maybe my time is starting to wrap up and what you did about it.
Yeah, I like this because you say it gently, like I had a choice. No, so long story short, I had all of my eggs in the cell phone basket. I was in my low 20s. Every time we made enough money, we'd go open another store. We were opening stores with cash. It was going very well, very lucrative. And then the company that I was selling started to make some pretty poor business choices. They ended up selling off their towers in order to being able to afford technology upgrades, and then they leased back their towers. And it was to the point that Apple wouldn't even sell them the iPhone. We lost about a third of our customers over the course of a year and a half. And it was really, a brick wall. And so our income source just kind of went from being awesome to almost nothing. And there was still some income. Like I said, we were pretty much debt free at that point. So running the business pretty lean, we were able to make some changes, but it was very clear that we shouldn't go down this cell phone path anymore. When you kind of have that scenario happen, you really quickly start to realize how important diversification is, how much, looking at other opportunities, investing in other things, having other income sources is so important. And I see it all the time right now where different founders are still all in on their companies, and that's great. But sometimes when the companies have different flows, having other income sources actually allows you to make better decisions. So at that moment, I got very, very focused on finding other opportunities and started looking at a million other companies, other franchises. And unfortunately, I started talking to a couple of people about real estate and what would happen. I was familiar with real estate. I was in a bunch of strip malls. I was a tenant. And so wanted to look at that as a diversification strategy, and it ended up making sense.
Awesome. And so 12 years later, after the cell phone game took its course in your life, so it started, and it's not like here we're talking about making billions. So there's obviously an underlying insinuation that we're talking about money, and we are. However, there's many other lessons. So those people listening to our show around the world, everybody's at different phases. So people starting out listening to Justin's story, there's lessons here, right? So obviously decisions matter. Don't do stupid things that make Apple ghost you, but also you're able to the customer service, working hard, managing bills, signing a lease. Right? You were a kid and you learned all these things at a very early age. You just got started. And then, you were willing, and there's a difference between being invincible and being unstoppable. And you obviously made the distinction that you were going to be unstoppable. So as one thing starts to kind of take the tail end, you moved into real estate. Like you said, you diversified different income streams, and that then started to take off. So with that being said, that maybe you can walk us through about growing your real estate business and where that took you and some of the insights that it provided.
Yeah, my knowledge was literally zero. To the point where I was talking with somebody and he said, every rich person I've ever met owns real estate. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, well, I'm running a business. The business is still doing okay. I don't have time to go manage tenants and do all that kind of stuff. And he said to me, well, why don't you go hire a property manager? And I was so naive that I literally didn't even know what a property manager was. But when I realized there was such a person in the world that would take care of if I could find the deals, you'll take care of the headaches. Wait a minute, that sounds good to me. And so I flew back. And I mean, I literally went online, Googled property managers in my city, and I started sending a few messages and talking with a few of them, understanding their process of managing the tenants, what the dollars were, what they recommended for, vacancy and this and all this kind of stuff. And then just dove in with every resource that I could. To the point where it was kind of, I always use the analogy of like fantasy football draft. I was always looking at properties and what if I bought that? What would I do to it? What would it rent for? And just paying attention to lots of different deals at all times. And then finally made the first choice, bought a property, fix it a little bit, rent it, turn it over, sit back. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. A couple months go by. Hey, they paid this much rent. The expenses were what we thought they were. Let's do another one and another and another and another and another. And now we hear, 10, 12 years later, and it compounds pretty quick.
Wow. That phenomenal. So you started out, you found that thing, you just got started, you found people to help just like you did before. You can see your experience is starting to come through. And, my understanding then, during COVID, this fun moment, this footnote in our history called COVID, real estate people it was rough, man. I mean, I'm just curious, how did that work out for you?
Yeah. So after it was 12 years of running the cell phone stores, and the writing was on the wall that it was time to sunset that business. It's pretty clear that the company that I was selling was kind of end up getting bought out. I was right. It was about a year afterwards, and so that makes it so you have kind of uncertainty of where you end up in that mix and all of that. And so we started doing some different things, from selling a location. We closed one down. We gave one to a corporate office in return for a multi-year lease. And then at age 32, I walked out of my last cell phone store and put the key in the door. And I had built up enough real estate at that point that the plan was to passively live off of that. And we did for a couple years. And I loved it. It was awesome. I lived right across the street from a golf course. That was kind of my life. And fast forward a little bit. And like you said, COVID happens. And, this passive business turned into an active business in the midst of 3 hours. I can remember exactly where I'm sitting, exactly when they announced this thing. My phone starts ringing, businesses are being forced to close down. And you kick back to those days of like, wait a minute, this thing's churning all day, every day. There's no problems. And then boom, brick wall. And it's time to get back in and rebuild. And over the next few months, ended up getting my real estate license so that we can navigate things a little bit faster, really getting involved with the tenants, their businesses, marketing different ideas that we can go through, and recentering, because at the end of the day, my tenant's success is my success. And if they go out of business, my properties don't have income, my loans don't, it's a bad domino effect. Whereas if we save the tenants, we work with them, we do all this, hey, now we can all win together.
Right. Live to fight another day. And that you did. So you ran into the brick wall in the cell phone industry, and you found a way around that. Then you retired and figured you're just chilling, passive income, which it is until it's not. And so then you dove in, you made the decisions again, you rolled up your sleeve. That's grit, brother. You were able to dig in, man. Good for you. And so you worked it out. I know there was one approach on many landlords who would just say, yeah, if you can't pay your rent, you're out. That's how this works. You took a different route. You said, look, if our tenants aren't in business, we're not in business. So we got to do everything we can to keep them in business. Man, I would love to have a landlord like you any day of the week to say, look, we're here for you, man. So
yeah, I mean, of course, within reason, but the idea being that, sure. I started off in residentials, lots of single families, and then have progressed into a lot more commercial, strip malls and Dollar Generals and absolute triple net type of properties. And so, these businesses, when they were shut down, some of these businesses have been in my properties way longer than I've even owned them. I have some people that have been in these for 20 years. I might have owned the property for 10, but they've been there longer than I have. Right. Yeah. So they've been paying their rent every month for 20 years. Now we get one hiccup in our world and we're just going to kick them out and their livelihood and everything. I mean, I go visit these properties. It's the same people going into work. I know this lifestyle because I did it. I went in and I hustled those cell phones for a decade plus, gave my life to being inside those strip malls. And if I would have taken care of my landlords for 10 plus years and then had one little instance where, things get weird in the world and they just kick me to the street, it just didn't seem right. And so we navigated, right? We worked deals. We talked with our banks. We'd split up rent over a couple months. We'd get involved with their all this kind of stuff that we could with their profit and loss and marketing and trading. Instead of giving us money, maybe they could donate things in order to get better frontage and marketing for their businesses, and just do all sorts of things that made sure at the end of this that the tenants were still there. And I'm really fortunate that at the end of it, we only lost one tenant, and I never even knew they were going to leave. They never called me, never told me. I drove by the property one day, and it was actually a small cell phone store that went out, weirdly enough. And if there would have been a business that I probably would have been sentimental to more than any, I wish the owner would have called me, because we probably could have figured it out. But different people have different things that they had to do to get through as well, and I understand and respect that.
So I want to highlight the ethical undertones in everything that you just described. And for fans around the world, it's important also to say, yep, we make money. Yep, we have a business, whether it's real estate, cell phones, or venture capital, doesn't matter. But also, when the times get tough, that's where you are introduced to yourself. And in that moment, you said, we're going to do the right thing. You didn't use those words, but I certainly did. You're saying we're going to do the right things, and you used your empathy in your leadership to connect with these people. And my understanding is you had some restaurant tenants, then they donated food to frontline workers in lieu of rent or something like that, right?
Yeah, you've got good research. We did lots of creative things. Whatever tenants could do. Let's say you're a pizza place and you've got decent margin on your pizza. We had some that donated pizza towards frontline workers in response to giving their rent, because ultimately they're helping feed our community. They're still providing value during really tough times. That pizza had a margin to it. They could use that to get marketing and draw attention to their business and all of that. At the end of the day, we made it through that period of time.
Wow. That is phenomenal, man. No wonder you've been a startling success, man. This is super, super cool. And are you still in real estate today?
Oh yeah.
Yep, still doing it, right? So, we talk a lot about reputation and relationships being the most valuable asset in your possession. And this is, you're no stranger to this. And so real estate, I'm assuming, just, in any business, to be honest, in any business, it helps you to build your reputation in that sector, but also some relationships. And my understanding is you had a really key relationship with a certain somebody that really changed and took you to the third phase of your career, which is restaurants. Maybe walk us through that moment of how there was a certain relationship that you had and where it took you to today.
Yeah. So the middle of the pandemic, January of 21, everyone's at home. It's, if you go to a hotel, you're not allowed to remotely be around other people. And a friend that I've known for 15 years now or so decided that he was going to host a business mastermind in Phoenix. And I'm like, what in the world is a mastermind? And what is this? But the idea made sense of, let's get together a bunch of business leaders and people that own stuff, specifically in the real estate and venture type of area. And let's talk about what's going on in the world. Let's get together, even though we're not supposed to. Let's get together. Let's have some conversations. And for a few days, let's just talk about how do we win and how do we win together, but also how do we make sure the people that are helping us win. And it was 3 days that changed a lot of my life, because you quickly are around people that talk like you and think like you and want to grow like you. And when other people were shutting down their businesses, people are saying, no, this is the opportunity. I'm like, wait, okay, I'm used to this kind of conversation, right? And then the final day, so there's like 80 some of us or whatever. And, we're hopping on a bus and apparently going to some outdoor venue because nobody would have us indoors. And we show up at the Diamondback Stadium and, it seats, 60,000 or whatever many people. And there's 80 of us for this whole place. And we're literally like on the field and playing with the players. And he does a really good job of having you learn, but also network, right? Because so much of this is creating those relationships and all of that. And right along the first baseline is an Everbowl. And I'm like, what in the world is an Everbowl? And I still have the picture with the big, Jumbotron in the background of me taking a picture eating this little bowl for the first time. And I've never tried anything like that. I'm Iowan, I'm meat and potatoes. And, even when we travel, it's steak and baked potato. It's like we'll upgrade it a little bit, but it's pretty cut and dry. But I quickly realized that, wait a minute, there's other options other than Chipotle. Like it's Chipotle, but fruit and good for you. And a couple hours later, I felt really good and I wasn't kind of groggy and we're running around. It's like, wait a minute. And then the owner, Jeff Fenster, spoke and literally used the Jumbotron as his PowerPoint and told the story about how they were really working to make healthy eating cool. And that when the rest of the world was shutting down, that they really thought that this was the opportunity to take this amazing concept. And they had done some things with vertical integration to make it so we could open restaurants faster and less expensive. There were some key players like Drew Brees was coming along and helping us grow. And everything started clicking as far as like, wait a minute, I know real estate, I know construction, I've built businesses before. And there seemed to be this amazing opportunity that if I take that skill set and put it to work again, that we could do something pretty cool. And so we bit off a pretty big chunk.
Yeah, that's incredible. And who was the friend that brought you in?
Dan Fleischman.
Dan Fleischman. Awesome. So yeah, very, very well-known guy, at least to me, as I know who he is.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. All right. And so there you are, man. Diamondback Stadium. PowerPoint slide on the Jumbotron. That's actually one of the coolest things ever. So that's a flex. Yeah,
it was pretty sick.
Yeah. So here you are. There's a business presentation through a mastermind. One of your friends brought you in, and we talked about it. Then you sampled it, you used it, you loved it. Now you are owning. So I'm assuming you bought into some Everbowl franchises and you're growing that world. Maybe walk us through a little bit of where that is today.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of self-control because I look at so many business opportunities, when you see that opportunity and it's the right one, you don't go a little in, and because, I look at real estate deals, a half a dozen a day. And so you can quickly find ways to filter them and find the good ones. And the Everbowl thing really checked a lot of the boxes that I was looking for. Scalable, good for the world. If we do it, we can create a lot of jobs. We can make money for our investors. It's a new niche, et cetera. I think it's the future. Lots of things. So what my next step of due diligence was literally, I flew back from Phoenix, and it must have, within a week, I was back on a plane to San Diego and in their offices. And, spending a couple days in the stores. And I was getting behind the counters and making bowls. I don't even know if they like that or not, but it is what it is. But I wanted to fully understand this whole thing because it just really clicked to me. And what was really important to me was this was something I personally wanted. The meat and potato guy wanted a bowl of fruit and realized that, wait a minute, what they were doing of taking the closest way of Mother Nature and bringing it to people and giving them ingredients that, nobody else was doing in a way that nobody else was doing. And then, when I got in the stores, I couldn't believe that I've never been in a business where the customers weren't unhappy. In cell phones, almost every customer that walks in the door, usually there's some sort of issue, right? They need to get a new phone. Their bill, won over something. They cracked a screen. Who knows the situation? But usually there's a problem. And what I found with Everbowl is that every customer that was coming in was loving the fact that they were there to provide them an incredible meal. The staff was caring and making friends with the customers. And I fell in love with the culture and what they were doing. And from there, we made the agreement to buy the rights to the state of Texas and begin to help them develop out that state.
Phenomenal, man. So you found a business that you loved and you kept doing it. And you could see for fans around the world that Justin kept applying those lessons of growing businesses, working with franchise, understanding construction, and little by little, man, you just stuck with it. And over time, the tenacity started to pay off bigger on every next move. So, I would be a horrible former CFO if we didn't talk about financing restaurant projects. So, like, how do you finance these things? And this is a great story, but let's get a little crunchier here. So, how do you finance? Like, what is some of those best ways to finance these projects?
Sure. So, I mean, there's the normal traditional route of go to a bank or SBA or whatever. But because of the fact that we're looking at scaling into the dozens or 100 plus of these, wanted to take approach that we could get more people to win along with us. And so, part of Everbowl is trying to get Everbowl for everyone. And there's a lot of different ways that we can make people part of Everbowl as we continue to grow the brand. And so, there's the customer and the importance of the customer coming in. And then there's also people that could be investors, right? Maybe they could own their own store, they could invest into one of our stores, or they could be a customer. Anyway, there's different ways that you can support it. And so I decided to do a friends and family type of round. And, fortunately, I've syndicated a lot of real estate deals. So when I went to people and said, hey, I'm up to something, I have been up to something. So if we rewind a little bit, I actually bought the rights to Texas, ended up opening the first store, did this all, and I literally didn't tell a single person. Not a single person around me in any way, shape knew. And then I kind of posted and then literally had a store open for 8 months or something and posted a cryptic thing on Facebook that said, I'm throwing an event this night. I'm up to something. And in that night, we raised a good chunk of money and went to work, and now are opening, almost a restaurant a month and doing it debt free. So we're able to pay our investors rather than paying banks. And, we kind of made some theses regarding where we thought the economy was going to be shifting over the next couple of years. And essentially, as business is becoming a little harder for a lot with rising interest rates and extra costs and things like that, by doing it debt free and by having vertical integration that allows us to get these restaurants open for less expensive, we're actually able now to go in and open 2 for every 1 that somebody else can do. And do it in a way that we don't have to raise a ton of money. We raise $500,000, and we give away 40% of 3 restaurants. So we batch them in 3s, so that people can have some diversification and be part of it. They get to be part of the design. We send out the emails. I literally just got 2 MEP plans stamped today. So, the investors get to be part of that, see the businesses being built, see the people being hired, and be part of that.
Yeah, I love that. And so, in the real estate side, it's very heavy bank finance traditionally. But the point here, I think that I'm hearing from you, Justin, is you can be creative on how you finance any projects. Now, we're talking about a restaurant, but really these lessons apply. And so I would say, the add-on question to you is, instead of going through banks, you went through friends and family and you did these equity raises. What was some of the impact? Like, did that have any effect on your top line, your bottom line, anything at all by doing a more creative capital stack that way?
Yeah, I mean, so I can tell you that Little Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that was one of the stores that we did for that. Because I ended up buying the rights. Later on, I bought the rights to the state of Iowa, which is where I'm born. And I wanted to bring this to my local communities. And even though we're spending, most of the time down in Texas and that, I also still have a team here and can do different things. So the funny thing is we ended up having the biggest grand opening and the biggest first day of sales ever from a little location in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And why was that, right? We gave away almost 400 bowls in 3 hours. So if you do the math, that's a bowl almost every 30 seconds that's being made and customized for somebody for 3 straight. It was a factory, a line around the building. It's one of my favorite videos that we have, because we let the community be part of helping us bring these restaurants to the community. We have dozens of investors. And I still have people that, they don't even live in Dallas, but they'll fly in and they'll be there for business and they'll swing by and shoot me a picture of their bowl. And people are getting to be part of what we're part of and grow it together and win together. and we're doing a cool thing, right? We're adding jobs and creating healthy meals and building businesses. And and it's created this awesome community of people that are changing things together.
Phenomenal. So for those of us who are listening around the world, like I in my day-to-day stuff, I have that purview of working in venture capital. And honestly, a lot of the times when you see founders that are stingy with their equity, to me, that's a red flag. I mean, you can get too carried away on both sides of that spectrum, but somewhere along the line, when you show that that the owners are somewhat generous with some of their equity distributions, especially in the early days, that's smart for the exact reason that you did it. And so, I don't want to get lost in the story, because there is a good principle for all funders and founders listening to the show. Is following Justin's example, is he's saying, look, man, if you bring in the key equity investors, they will help you grow and promote your business. Absolutely. So don't be too stingy with your equity. Don't be too loose with it either. You won't have anything left. But using equity as not only a funding mechanism, but also a top line growth mechanism can absolutely change the game for you, for me, as well as many of our people around the world that are looking to fund and finance deals. So thank you for sharing that information. So, as we wrap things up and we kind of round third base, as I always say, we're taking it home. I'm just curious. I promised our friends around the world that I'd say pretty please. So please, would you be able to share with us some of your kind of your takeaways? You've had such a great experience, and one step just made you more successful in the next, and so on. I would love to hear some of, like, maybe 2, maybe 3 different takeaways that you found to be successful, and also how do they implement it?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would say to everybody listening is, if you haven't gotten involved in a deal yet, you got to get involved in something. And, whether it's passively investing into a friend's deal, or you could be the person that's laying carpet in a rental house that's being flipped, talk with those flippers and find maybe there's a way that you can add value to it in a different way. But the importance of being involved in deals, I can't take away from the importance of this, because every deal that you're in makes you better for the future deals. Right now, one of the reasons that I became a pretty decent landlord was I was actually a tenant first, right? I had a lot of landlords, and then I could talk to the different landlords and realize, wait a minute, I kind of want a landlord like this one. And so when I finally became a landlord, I could talk to the tenants like this one. And I could, when they had issues, I could help resolve them, and we could work through things. And I didn't want to be like this landlord. And so it's very important to be part of deals. And even now, as we invest in other syndicates, and, one of the things that makes me a better capital person is that I put a lot of capital with other people. So I see the way that they give me the updates, and I understand the communication, and I understand how they treat their investors, which then makes it so I can choose how to treat my investors and how to communicate with them. And the more deals that you can be part of, the more you can cherry pick the pieces that you understand and go with that.
I love that. So instead of being a man of means, you became a man of value. I love that.
Yeah. And then once you get involved in those deals, provide as much value as you can. Don't sit back and say, it's up to you to make me money. Sit back and say, hey, how do we win even more together? How do we do more deals together, right? You want to become that easy. I can't tell you how many companies I'd send $5 or whatever grand for, and I'd be sharing their posts online and high-fiving and liking this like I'm their biggest advocate in the world, but I have next to nothing. But the reality is, I want those people to be successful. And the more that you want everyone else to be successful, they're going to want you to be successful. And you end up creating this incredible network of people that just want to win for each other together.
Absolutely. And like you alluded to before, reputation, relationships. So even, right, you get on this deal, I've had a similar journey, man. So I absolutely agree. Just say, like, how can I support you? I would offer, I've been in school at the time for 7 years, and I would say, hey, like, I don't have any deal experience, but this is the one thing I can build you financial models. I can tell you what anything is worth.
Absolutely.
And, we help you to get a 360-degree view on the risks and the profits and different variables. I won't even charge you. I'd just love to come in and do, like, I talked about that in my earlier episodes. We don't have to go over it here. But literally, it put me at the table with billionaires, oil tycoons, royalty in the Middle East, all just because I said, how can I add value? Not,
Absolutely.
well, you got to pay me for my consulting because I'm cool. No, just add value. Just get in the room, get that deal experience. Absolutely, 100%. You see, Justin Sloan knows what's up. He knows what he's doing. So follow this guy. Any what other tips have you found other than getting in on deals and adding value? What else have you found that you can share?
So something that really lifted up my deal flow was when I started getting into some of the personal branding stuff. So I would really lean on people that are thinking about getting into investing and networking and stuff, that you got to put yourself out there. You've got to find a way to tell your story and do it in a way that doesn't necessarily intrude with your business. But the reality is that we all have a brand, whether we like it or not. Right? When people search me online or they go to an Instagram page or wherever, there's different things in there that tell a story. And if they go to LinkedIn, there's different things there that tell a story. So why wouldn't we want to tell our stories and show what we're doing? And so I made the decision. I literally started my Instagram page, and go back 18 months ago or so when we were getting ready to open our first store. And I said, I'm just going to start showing people videos when I have when I'm in there and we build out the store, when we have a grand opening, and then through that, I'd be on a podcast like this and record some of the content and post that and give my response to a couple things. Or somebody would, want a half an hour of coaching or whatever. And I'd be like, sure, free, as long as I can record it. And what happened was, you end up creating this huge network of people all around you that realize, hey, wait a minute, he's doing this too. And now I'm like, all the Everbowl owners in the whole company, like, we're all friends and we're winning, we're talking different ideas, we're celebrating and winning together. You find more investors, all this kind of stuff. So you've got a brand. Make sure that you're the one that's controlling that narrative and telling and showing people what you're doing.
Awesome. So, and how do you do that?
So I've got it down to an hour every 2 weeks. Okay. It's pretty streamlined. So I have a third party company that we pay a monthly fee to, and basically anytime. So I've got a half an hour standing meeting every 2 weeks, and they go through some questions that they might have, or questions that have come through my DMs or wherever, and we'll cycle through some of those, and they'll cut them into clips and post them and go from there. So I don't have to sit there and think of all that kind of stuff. It's me that's on the account, but they're the ones that does the posting. And so it just streamlines. I don't want my day to be, hey, at this time I got to post this and do this and that. So we just streamlined as much as I can. And then, it's as many stories as you can do. Right before I hop on this podcast, what I do, hey, I'm on a podcast, right? Because we're just telling stories, just showing what we're doing. Just a fun Wednesday night.
Yeah. Good times, man. We're having a good time. So, something I learned from you, Justin, was which you've learned from the legend Gary Vee, was to document, don't create. I learned that from you. So thank you for sharing that lesson here. What does that mean to you? I mean, you've talked about the cell phone. Like, how do you document and don't create? Because I know a lot of content creators, we talk about that, and Gary and you and even myself says, BS. Don't obsess over creating content. Just document. Like, what does that look like in Justin's world?
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more with his philosophy on that, because it's the only way to be authentic. I mean, I'm not afraid to show people what I'm doing, and through it, we're going to win, we're going to fail, we're going to have bruises, we're going to have all sorts of stuff, but we show that too. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that things don't work out the way that we thought, or this happened, whatever. But when you show that, what happens is you're showing that you're real, because when you just follow curated content, you're getting only the highlight reel. And at some point, it's a little unrelatable. It's like, wait a minute, does this person ever have a headache, right? Do they ever have a problem? Do they have any staff, right? Because it just looks like it's all Ferraris and, private jets and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Where's the actual work? And I still love to go into the stores and see my employees and spend time and get to be with the customers, and I love going in and watching us take these ugly spaces and turning them into something beautiful, and through that getting to expand. And then through that, obviously our investors, a lot of them follow us on social. So I can't tell you how cool it is for them to be like, hey, I know you just signed that lease. And then they see it demoed, and then they see this. And I've had them fly in for the grand openings because they're like, I helped this restaurant. I'm like, yes, you did. Awesome. And I just think it's really special to, the more that we can show what we're doing, and especially document, show what we're doing with other people's money, then it makes them, hey, he's not, when I invest in Apple, I have no idea what they're going to do with the money. I mean, Ryan, they're going to add a 17th wing of another floor onto whatever little thing in whatever country. I'm going to have no idea. But the nice thing is when people write a check to us, they have ownership in these 3 locations. And I can show you the addresses and you can drive to them. And you know that you helped put money into that wall and that freezer. And those employees have jobs because of you. Like literally, it's kind of crazy. But for every 50K we raise, we create between 2 and 3 jobs. Like that's how efficient we can be with this in changing things. And when we find those right partners and we show them along the way, they just continue to support. And it's a really cool thing to be proud of.
Man, absolutely phenomenal advice, man. So you just walk through reputation relationships, man, kind of my ethos as well. You're just saying, look, you're building a brand. That's your reputation. It's what people, when your name comes up, what comes to their mind. You're building it either way, and just document it. And to your point, and this is something you've taught me, was authenticity, man. People respond to that. In fact, I would argue, or even compliment and take it up a notch, I would say people are thirsting for it. Is like you said, you're like, look, you go on Instagram or all these other things, it's Ferraris and private jets and all that. That's cool. I mean, it's fine. It's cool. We're not knocking on it, but we're saying the gap, like the innovator that you are, you're saying there's something missing here, and it's authenticity. Is saying like, yeah, that was my buddy's or that was like a rental Ferrari or whatever. It's like, here's my Honda. No one cares, man. But what they do is they're just saying like, I can trust Justin because I know he's authentic. I can get the behind the scenes. I know he's the real deal. Either way, I get that insight. So as we wrap things up and as we summarize, is there anything else that you would like our fans to know?
All right, I've got one thing. I'm going to go down a slight rabbit hole, but this is the perfect audience because I know that the audience that is listening is truly the people that are actually changing the world. Yes. So anyone that listens to this actually understands compound interest. So I have a request for this crowd.
Okay.
Please stop helping assholes win. No, I really I've screamed this for a couple of years now, but I really mean it. Yeah. If you really believe in compound interest, we have to stop the bad from compounding as much as we have to help the good compound. And when we look at some of the anger and some of the stuff that happens in our world, we can actually directly decompound that. There's a lot of deals that we can be part of. There's a lot of people that are doing great things that we can help compound. There's a lot of places that we can put our resources that are for the good, but they can also go the other way. So I plead with everyone because I know the importance of this audience and the collective meaning that over the next 20 years, what the people listening to this will do. So if you've got that asshole that calls you and wants to invest, just find the dollars from somebody else. If you get that next opportunity, but you know that they're doing it by putting out some good people and doing business in a way that doesn't make you feel super good at night, let's just remove that one from the plate and watch the other things, the good things, go fill up your plate instead.
Yeah, and that is phenomenal. So the no a-hole rule, I love that. So yeah, don't help assholes. I love it. So And I've said this before, we have a lot of mutual friends, Justin, so I'm glad we're finally able to meet. And, in the circles that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, a lot of people, the question I get asked all the time is how to raise money. And it comes down to reputation relationships. But really, we really talk about this in the context that, hey, man, when you're building a brand, if you want to be remembered and known for something, be known for being a good person. As crazy as that sounds, being honest and a good person in this industry actually makes you stand out. First of all, that's equally awesome as it is terrifying. That being a good person that's authentic and not flashing rental Ferraris and all this stuff, but you're just like, yeah, like take it or leave it. But being a good person, because I can tell you that I've had many investors invest with me who will take, even though maybe someone else is doing a similar thing, can give them a couple extra points. They know they can trust me. They know I'm authentic, and they will support on that no a-hole rule. So I've never heard it put that way, but I certainly love that. So, as we wrap things up, just, summarizing what Justin has taught us today, focus on getting in on a lot of deals. And then once you're in, for even the littlest amount, maybe it's free, whenever you get in, then really try to be a person of value. Provide as much value to the deal as you can. That will boost your reputation and relationships, as it did with Justin, as it has with me. Further, document, don't create, right? You want to be, right, as my good friend says, if they don't know you, they can't follow you. So if you're out there and you're getting social media and posting, just document what you're doing, man. Show people that you're getting it done, that it does require some work, that it's not just big fat watches and private planes, but this is a lot of hard work, and people, still surprising as it is, they follow that. And Justin's found that out as well. And then finally, don't support assholes, man. If you really want to stand out for being honest, for being authentic. You do these things, and you too will be well on your way in your pursuit of making billions.
Wow, what a show. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Now, if you haven't done so already, be sure to leave a comment and review on new ideas and guests you want me to bring on for future episodes. Plus, why don't you head over to YouTube and see extra takes while you get to know our guests even better. And make sure to come back for our next episode where we dive even deeper into the people, the process, and the perspectives of both investors and founders. Until then, my friends, stay hungry, focus on your goals, and keep grinding towards your dream of making billions.